I'm David Denning, one of the founders of Jumpstart Go and the Marketing for Insurance Agents group. We started this group really as a resource for you guys to connect to other agents, have discussions, share best practices, really dive in, find referral partners. And then we do trainings every single week, Mondays at 4 p.m. Eastern time. So go ahead and put them on your calendars, whether they're Facebook Lives or webinars for you guys, where we dive into sales, into automation, into social media, strategic referral relationships, building teams, managing teams, optimizing with vendors, really all the different aspects for growing your production, your sales, and your insurance business. And we love talking about all of that. For those of you guys who don't know us as well, we run a few different programs for insurance agents, helping them grow and scale their businesses. We've worked with over 300 insurance agents and agencies inside of the Closers Click, Legends, Producers Academy. And then we also have our own insurance agency on the final expense side called the Den Insurance Group as well, helping agents grow and scale their production and their own agencies as well there too. So we love working with insurance agents. We love watching you guys grow and scale your production, your businesses, and we love connecting you guys with you guys inside of the group and on social media. Social media is one of our favorite areas to dive into. As you guys have see us in the group and all over there, we've done a couple million through social media. We love teaching other people how to utilize it for their insurance businesses and how to grow and scale with it. So really, really excited for that and diving into that today. A little bit, like I said, a little bit of a different live, as we're going to be diving a little bit of Ella and I's background, how we traveled around the world and lived in different places around the world while running our business back in the US with US-based clients. How did we manage it? What kind of logistics went into it? How can you do that yourself? How can you set up and really design your business to fit what you would love for it to look like, what your ideal business and agency looks like. So if you want to learn how to design your ideal business, and whether that's working right where you're working from right now or working from another country, whether that's working in an office with people or working remotely at the house or abroad, if that's designing how you are shaping your pipeline, how your sales process works, how everything works within your business. If you want to design that business to fit you, your time balance that you would like, your income goals that you'd like from your business, then write ideal in the comments and let us know that you're ready to learn how to create your ideal business. Because that's really what we're going to talk about, is how Elle and I shaped what we wanted the business to look like and what we learned from that as well. Because sometimes you'll be surprised what happens when you get what you want, right? So love it, love it. Get some comments on ideal, ready to rock it. So I'm gonna have Elle hop in just a second, and we will get rocking and rolling. So let me go ahead and tee up the training though for you guys on what exactly we're going to be talking about. So did you get into entrepreneurship, into the insurance industry, into building your own business for location freedom? Is that a part of what you wanted, to be able to live where you wanted, work from where you wanted as a part of that? And how did that come about for us? Because Elle and I were originally headed in pretty traditional corporate roles, did both work corporate as well and within an office. And I worked in probably one of the most awful offices. It literally had no windows. It was all cubicles, all fluorescent lighting. It was exactly out of a Dilbert cartoon, I think. It was rough, guys. I don't know. Some people, that doesn't bother them. For me, it was kind of soul crushing. And luckily, we had the opportunity, before we even were running our own business, to live abroad in South Africa for 2 years. And that really helped shape a lot of our desires and wants and the location independent freedom as a part of that. Hey, we would love to run a business where we could live around the world and we could put that in place. And that kind of led to us eventually kicking that off once we came back from South Africa. So I love it. It looks like a lot of people want to design their own ideal, or they want to build their own ideal business. They want to shape it to what they look like. They want that location freedom, that they're working towards it. But over time, would love to have that. So awesome. So that's a big part of it, is people get into the insurance industry generally for financial freedom and location freedom or time freedom. as a part of that. Also, I want to talk about the ability to travel was the number one reason Elle and I started the journey of entrepreneurship back in 2015. So we were digital nomads for about 3 years, living on and off in Southeast Asia and abroad, some different locations I'll talk about in just a minute. But what we discovered was to really enjoy our travels in places like Thailand, the Philippines, Vietnam, and make a great living from our business. It really came down to 3 things. So those key things were how we lived in beautiful Southeast Asia for 3 years while running our business. How did we do that? What did that look like? Why it actually costs less to travel and is easier than you might think, which I think surprises a lot of people, and the technology we needed to make this a reality. Okay. So we'll even discuss some nitty-gritty things such as phone plans, internet connectivity, time zones, and how to travel with credit card points. Elle is amazing at that. I don't touch that as much because I'd probably end up somehow canceling all her points or something. I don't know. I'm not allowed to touch it. So looks like Elle's excited to join me. So let's go ahead and bring her on. So with that, let's go ahead and start diving in. So Elle, I know you probably got a lot, so I'm gonna let you go ahead and dive in first, since they're probably sick and tired of hearing me talk. So if you're thinking about traveling while running your business, Elle, where do you even start?
So we're talking about where do we get started with running location independent business, or like how do you even start? I know we got a lot of people on. We've got people that are saying they are definitely interested in location independent business. And honestly, David, and as far as our story goes, David was the one that came to me and was like, hey, I think that we should get into entrepreneurship and run our own business so that we can travel the world. And this was like 2014, maybe. This idea of like working remotely was really not a very popular concept. And so I remember thinking like, David, you're crazy. Like, how in the world are we even going to do that? That doesn't make a lot of sense. But what we did is we started working, picking up clients in the US, doing marketing for them in 2015 with the goal of replacing David's income. And I still remember thinking like, okay, I have no idea how we're going to do this, but a year from now, we're going to be working on a beach in Thailand. And I had that visual in my mind. And for whatever reason, it was Thailand in my mind that we were going to go work from. So what we did is we actually started taking steps to first like have a location independent business. So having systems and processes in place where we could work remotely, it is huge. And then we really started doing a lot of research. We knew that specific for us, Southeast Asia was a place that we wanted to go. We knew that there was a big community of digital nomads, so people that work, in remote online businesses. And so we started doing research and started like actually looking at places where we could potentially stay. At that time, like Airbnb wasn't super popular back in like 2014. It was like maybe just starting. But we did a lot in like Facebook groups, online forums, community. We listened to a ton of like podcasts, and we consumed as much information as we possibly could. Like, we didn't know people that were doing this. There were not people that were part of our circles, part of our friends that did this. And I think our families probably thought that we were a little bit like crazy to even like think that we could do it. But we like anywhere and everywhere that we could get our hands on knowledge and access to people that were doing it, we really sought that out and looked to build relationships. So I remember it was like a lot of forums on Reddit, for example, that we would get on, and we would read about this digital nomad community, specifically in a city in Thailand in the mountains called Chiang Mai. And that there were a lot of entrepreneurs that would go. And one of the things that was really appealing to us at that point was that the cost of living was so much more affordable. Like, you could get a meal for less than $1. And your cost of living, like you could rent really nice apartments with gyms and pools that would be like serviced, and they'd be like a few $100s a month. So the standard of living was like way higher and cost actually a lot less. So the very first thing was like we started thinking about it. We picked a place that we wanted to go, and then we started intentionally seeking out people and relationships of people that were doing that, because it was something that seemed like so far-fetched and so impossible at the time. We needed ways to start making it a reality for us.
Absolutely. I mean, and part of that was, I mean, it's super nice having a U.S. passport, as that opens up a lot of areas that you can travel, that you can drop into, that you don't even need a visa for, that you can just literally just take a flight there and you can stay for a month, a few months. Some place in the world you can stay even a lot longer than that. Or in some places they have really simple visa applications, like a page, and you can stay for a year or longer. So it's really, really awesome that you guys have the ability to really travel a lot of places. And most people, that's limited to, okay, I'll take a few days, maybe a week vacation somewhere, and that's it. And it's okay, there's no way I could work while traveling. So it becomes just this, okay, let me set aside a few days a year that I could maybe go somewhere and then try to figure all that out. And by the time I get there, by the time I have to get back, wherever, I've spent a couple days maybe, but never even fully relaxed or figured that out. So for us, it was all, how do we make this just a part of our life and the logistics around that? So I mean, what are some initial questions you would have, like if you were like, hey, you need to go run your business over in Thailand tomorrow, or next month, what would you have to figure out? What would you have to put in place? Because that was our lives. It was like, how do we do this? And so I know Els mentioned it on some past Facebook Lives and stuff before, but when we first started our business, and we were believing the corporate side, and we're to run our own business, build our own business ourselves. Definitely scary, definitely leaving very, very nice corporate jobs that we had gone to school for, to do this. It was okay, we're sitting down, just starting the business, and hey, Elle was like, I don't know how. I don't know how it'll happen or whatever, but in the next year, we're somehow going to be working from Thailand on a beach, and we're somehow going to make that happen. And we did. And so within a year, we built the business, and we'd set everything up, we'd booked tickets, and we flew to Thailand and worked from Thailand for like 3 to 4 months before coming back. And which was nice, that we ended up taking our house in Florida and just renting it while we were gone. So, that was the next thing I think a lot of people have questions about, is what do I do with my house or where I live? Or we rented it, and it actually helped pay for a bunch of the stuff, because
we actually paid for our entire mortgage by renting our house out for 4 months of the year. So it actually like paid us to leave our house, rent it out, and then the cost of living was so much more affordable in Southeast Asia, that we made money simply by traveling. And it's also extremely passive income to rent out your house, especially if you have a property manager that takes care of the marketing of the property, all of the renters and everything. So that was actually one of the steps that we took when we first started this like idea that we wanted to do this. We actually didn't own a home, but we knew that we wanted to buy a home. And one of the reasons that we wanted to buy was so that we would first lower the just monthly cost that we were paying in rent. And then we knew that it was an asset that we could use essentially as another revenue stream for us. So we intentionally bought a house where we live now in Southwest Florida, because there's a massive snowbird population that comes down from up north during this time when it's super cold up north. It's beautiful here. in December, January, February, March. So that's when we would go to Southeast Asia and we would travel. And by us leaving our house for 4 months, we paid for our entire mortgage, insurance, property tax, everything, and actually made money, more than covered our mortgage. So starting to think about these things and just having conversations with people that are doing this, and that a lot of times people think like, oh my gosh, to go live in Southeast Asia for 4 months, that would be so, like, there's so many logistics to figure out. And yeah, there are. I mean, it's not just like you just pick up and go. And we don't have children, but we do have 2 dogs, and we had to think about them when they weren't going to go to Thailand with us, or Vietnam, or the Philippines. So I still remember thinking about that. And I remember asking David, I was like, there's no way we're going to be able to find somebody to like watch our dogs, or there's no way we're going to be able to afford it for people to, take care of our dogs for us. And David was like, let's just put it out on Facebook and see. Like, we don't know unless we ask the question. And so one Facebook post, again, we talk about social media all the time for marketing in your business, but it also helps you in building the life that you want too. It's like, ask and you shall receive. And so we asked on Facebook, we're like, we have our 2 beautiful dogs. We took a photo of them. We're looking for somebody to take care of them for 4 months while we travel. Is anybody interested? And we had friends from high school, and she was this animal trainer, and they didn't have a dog, and they really wanted to have pets. And so it ended up working out perfectly, but it would have never happened. And it would have been a limiting belief that would have kept me from like, oh, well, nobody's going to watch our dogs for 4 months, if we hadn't tried and starting to just take steps in knocking on doors and seeing what was possible.
I mean, it's the same with insurance agents, right? Like, we tend to let any sort of obstacle, any sort of challenge, like, throw us off or even give up, right? Like, so many agents, we see this. If someone answers the phone, I don't know who this is, I don't know why you're calling, like, I can't afford it, like, call me back next year. As objection, it's a challenge, and it's like, okay. And we give up, and for a lot of people, working abroad, and having a location dependent business, it's, I have kids, there's no way to make that happen. I'll tell you, we have tons of friends that travel with everything from infants up to teenagers around the world. And it's definitely possible. There's definitely challenges and things to overcome, just like with anything, but it's definitely possible. There's almost no situation where it's not possible to make it happen. Same thing, insurance is, there's always an objection or a challenge to overcome, but we overcome that to grow our businesses, to be successful, to build and hit the goals that we want to. So it's the same thing with this. If you're intentional about it and you put that into motion and into solving the things to make it happen, it'll happen. And that's exactly what we did. Is we hadn't done that before. Is all, how do we figure this out? What are we using for our cell phones? What are we using for our internet? How do we even get to this country? What do we even need to do once we get there? Can we just like land and like, cool, we're gonna stay here for a few months or whatever? Or is there a process to that? And so yeah, it require a little bit of research and stuff, but it's also fun, right? Like, it's one thing. It's like, if I got to do planning, for, my annual doctor's visit and what vaccinations I need. It's another if I'm planning to go chill in Thailand and run a business from there, right? So it's exciting, it's fun, and I think we really enjoyed even the planning portion of it. But I'm gonna be honest, once you kind of know the general things that you need, and what that looks like, it really opens up the whole world, and it's such an easy process. Like, Elle and I, we can travel light. So, Elle and I can go for 4 months with one big backpack and one small backpack. And, we'll bring week and a half worth of clothes, and then we'll just wash them, whether it's in the sink or at a laundromat or whatever that is when we're abroad. And so we travel light. So that means if we're taking like budget airlines within countries, or we're having to travel by bus or anything like that, we only have like our 2 backpacks. Make it so easy to get around, never have to check a bag, never have to wait for check bags, or worse, the lost bags, which are not fun. And so it makes travel just nice and smooth. And so we're like, if we've got our backpacks, a week's worth of clothes, our laptops, and our cell phones, we pretty much could pick up and travel wherever, like, tomorrow, for the most part. It's very easy for us to like throw what we need into a backpack, and hey, We can go spend a week here. We could spend 4 months here, and it would be fine.
And I'm looking at the comments here. So one thing too, that with travel and traveling, like we're talking about, it's a skill that you acquire. So it's something that you learn. It's not like, we just started without any type of like preparation or thought. And even packing, I actually was looking through some of the photos from the very first trip that we took. I remember it took me like weeks of planning, and I even like searched blogs and everything to determine exactly what I was going to pack, because I knew I wanted to pack light. We were going to be going places like Philippine Islands. We were going to be on motorbikes and boats and all of this stuff, that it was like, you're not going to be like wheeling a suitcase behind you, on some of the tuk-tuks and all of this stuff that, you do in Southeast Asia. Like I needed to pack light. And before that, I wasn't really a light packer either. It was a skill that I learned. I still remember we took a week-long trip to France. This is really before we started like traveling a lot. And it was just a week long. And I remember I packed this huge suitcase. Like it was like right at the limit of that 50-pound mark or whatever. And I still remember us like, pulling that suitcase and lugging it all over France through the metro. Like it really deteriorated the experience because of that like terrible, huge suitcase. There wasn't elevators. So we're like on, I don't know, the 4th or 5th floor lugging up the suitcase. So anyway, my point is like, it's not like we've always been amazing at packing down to 2 backpacks and being able to live out of 2 backpacks for 4 months. It's a skill that you acquire just like anything else. And I will say, getting very clear on your decision-making process and what is essential to you and what is not is actually a fantastic exercise in really strengthening that decision-making skill and trusting yourself, and also letting go of like, I probably don't need that. I'm probably okay without that extra pair of shoes. It's always shoes for me. Like shoes is the hardest thing for me to pack because I love shoes. I like having variety of shoes, and they take up a lot of space. So you have to be very strategic in your decision making. It's a muscle. Like I know it's kind of funny, but it is. You're really strengthening that decision making muscle. And travel, that's just one example of how travel really helps you sharpen those skills that totally translate into business ownership and entrepreneurship as well.
Running a location independent business, building your remote ideal business. But a lot of what we're talking about here applies just to your insurance business or business in general, right? Is we love to overcomplicate things. Mm-hmm. We love to overthink things. How many agents, like they go to do their first, sales calls or dials, like spend hours, like, okay, let me get all my papers in order. Let me pull up all my tabs. Let me, shake have my lucky rabbit foot and roll my dice and practice a few times to myself before I ever make this one call. Like, ooh, I got one call in today. Woo, I'm making it happen. And we overthink everything, right? Versus going out and taking action and doing or figuring out as we go. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's who really is successful both in business and making things fit to what they want in life. People that are adaptable, don't overthink things, and they take action. Because at the end of the day, action's what breeds results. And if we don't move forward and take action on things, we'll never get the results that we want. So nothing's ever going to go perfect. So I might as well go ahead and take action and figure out what's going to end up happening, because 90% of the things that I'm worried about happening, and, what if I get stranded in a mountain in the Philippines? We'll tell you that story. And, most of them will never happen. Or, and if they do, they usually, they just make a good story sometimes, which that one was a very good story. So
I love it.
I love it. And so part of it is making a plan, right? Like, and just like we make a plan for our business and putting that in place, is making a plan for, I want to live and travel abroad. And some of that is going to be figuring out as you go. And some of it's going to be taking the time to go ahead and put a plan in place. So like I said, it's figuring out budget, like how much is it going to cost? And I'll tell you one big, I saw one earlier, like, what are some misconceptions you see? One of the big ones is that it's crazy expensive to travel and to live in different places. It depends on the place, of course, but in reality, there's places that are absolutely amazing in this world. absolutely have a ton of different things for you to do, amazing, friendly people, easy to get around, and are crazy more affordable than the US as well. So there's, if you're working with US clients and living in a place where the dollar is very strong and you have access to a lot of things very affordably, then you can live even higher quality of life than you have here, for example, in another country. And so Southeast Asia is a great example of that just because of how crazy affordable it is. But there's plenty of places in Europe, definitely places in Africa, South America. I have many, many friends that live in Mexico and live in Colombia. They live in Buenos Aires, or even Costa Rica. And then you get into Europe, and there's places like Prague, Portugal, Lisbon is a huge city, Barcelona, all over. So there's so many opportunities that I think we just give up and think it's impossible, and realize it's actually not when you sit down and look at it. And another big one that comes up is like the flights. How do I get there? Oh, the flight's gonna be thousands and thousands of dollars. And that was one of the, I'm very thankful for early on. And now it's gotten to where there's so many tools out there with Google Flights and other stuff. But when we first started, and still use today, is Scott's Cheap Flights. Literally a guy named Scott that liked to find flight deals. And so it's Scott's Cheap Flights, and we would use that, and it would literally send us emails every day of like, hey, there's flights from your city to Europe for like $300 round trip, or hey, there's flights from your city to Thailand for $500 round trip. And we're like, all right, this is amazing. So we saved so much money on flights, and it's definitely possible. So I'd love to talk a little bit more into making the plan, like and what goes into
that's really how it all started for us. And I can't stress enough the mindset and intention that comes along with this, of like really committing yourself to make it a reality for yourself. And you don't have to like go halfway across the world. It could be somewhere that's maybe a little bit closer, and an easier time zone. So Mexico and South America can be a lot easier for navigating time zones. Southeast Asia was difficult with the time zones. We did have to be, we would work fairly late into the evening, so that we did have some hours that were overlapping with clients. So that's something with this, as well as communicating to clients what your schedule is. I really highly recommend having automation or some sort of system in place that can also auto respond to your clients, letting them know when you are available, and that they can call you, and also making it available for them to pre-book appointments with you, so that they can book directly onto your calendar. Because that's really big. And all of our clients knew that we were traveling. When we were traveling, our team knew that we were traveling. And it's a matter of communication and setting those expectations of when we were going to be available, when we weren't. And always for clients, having a point of contact that they can reach out to during business hours as well is really important. And then if you're halfway across the world, then you're up during the nighttime or the out of office hours. So that just comes down to planning and communication and setting up those expectations. But really committing yourself that you're going to do it. Pick a place, pick a time. Start looking at Airbnbs, or really starting to look at like co-working spaces. So if you're going to be working, either pick a place that has a comfortable workspace for you, either at the Airbnb or at the hotel. If you're really going to spend more than a few weeks, I highly recommend finding a place either ahead of time online. But when we were coming up, Airbnb didn't really exist. So we would actually book a hotel for like a week in the city that we knew that we were going to stay. And then we would walk around in the city, and we would actually set up appointments to go and look at apartments or long-term stay places. So again, this comes back to connecting with people that have been to that area before, really getting their perspective, knowing what's in the area. Airbnb and places like, or websites like Airbnb have made it a lot easier, but at least start looking at how much a flight is. How much would it be to have an Airbnb for a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months? What do you need as far as your passport and your visa? If you've got kids, you've got family that you're taking care of, you've got pets, start thinking about, are they going to be traveling with you? Are you going to be making a plan for arrangements for a family member, loved one, someone to take care of them for you? And start asking the questions, start putting it out to people that you know, like, hey, I want to do this. I want to do this in 2023. Do you know of any solutions? And just by like starting to knock on those doors and asking questions, you'll probably be amazed at the solutions that are out there and things that you're probably worried about that will actually work themselves out when you commit yourself to the plan.
And I know we're kind of talking abroad right now too, but I mean, we have agents, that we've worked with that literally have an RV with their family, and they go around to the national parks in the US and travel around, and he sells life insurance over the phone. And so he'll literally just roll up to a park. Yeah, exactly. Comments. So, I mean, it's not that you have to even go to another country. It's just even within the US, really that freedom to like work from wherever. Like, hey, I have a family member that's really sick, like my mom or something like that. Okay, yeah, I can go work from there for a month, 2 months. Doesn't really, affect my business at all. No problem. Or, oh, I've got a good buddy I've been meaning to visit out in California that's got extra room and says I come out and stay. Cool. Let me plan to go spend a month out there and hang out and get to explore, California, for example. So, that freedom really applies to everything. Like I said, it's designing your ideal business, your remote business. Remote doesn't have to mean abroad, it could be local, but I think a lot of people like talking about the abroad because it's a dream, something they didn't imagine happening, something I've got to work 50 years to be able to go do. In reality, it's something that can happen now. And so it's kind of like anything that's important to us, we can make it happen. It may be challenging, it may be a lot of work, but we can do it. So same thing with building a business, right? So making the plan, right? Yes, in the comments, is this making sense, right? Yes, I understand, that it's possible, making the plan, putting the stuff in place. And so now the next part, which is both in business and in travel, is executing the plan, right? So what does that look like? Elle, you want to talk a little bit what that looks like in reality for once you're executing it, and then maybe also some of the challenges that pop up when you're executing it.
Yeah, for sure. So I would create some sort of deadline for yourself. Like if this is something that seems really daunting and scary, and it probably will be if it's the first time that you've ever traveled like this before, worked while traveling, and go ahead and book a flight. And it's okay if you don't have all of the details worked out, or book that accommodation where you're going to be staying, or book an experience, or do something where you're putting some money behind it, or that you're putting some level of commitment, and create that deadline for yourself. For us, the deadline is that we started working with a property manager and we put our house on Airbnb. So we knew we had a deadline of, we had renters that were coming into our house that were going to start, renting it out. And we had to be out of our house. Like we could cancel, but we weren't going to do that. We were going to follow through. So it really made us actually create a plan and like, okay, that this is happening. The ball is rolling. Because I don't think if we wouldn't have had some sort of like external pressure like that, I'm not sure it really would have happened so quickly for us as it did, and for us to actually like go and make it happen. So kind of create that urgency for yourself, create a deadline, so that if this is something that you really want to do, like it's available to you. Like it is available to you right now in 2023. You're like, I want to go spend a month in Mexico. We have a ton of friends that are in Playa del Carmen. They like basically work from the beach, like they have, or Tulum in Mexico. And it's not that long of travel. Time zones are very easy. If you speak a little bit of Spanish, then then you're good. I don't really speak any Spanish at all. David knows a little bit and can get by. I think somebody was asking me about language barrier. Learn a little bit to ask for directions, be able to count, be able to order some food and ask for the bathroom. And go to places where there's communities already. I mean, I really want to encourage you all, like pretty much every major city across the world has English speaking communities within them. There are people already there, already doing this, already working and traveling. It's really a matter of connecting with those communities. And if you're thinking, David and Ellie, I really want to do this, I don't know where to get started, feel free to reach out to us. We absolutely love this. We have people that helped us along the way. It can be challenging. So reach out to us and we'd be happy. We know people all over the world that are doing this. If you're like, I really want to go to Prague, well, we can find people in Prague to connect you with.
I love Prague.
If you really want to go to Tulum in Mexico, we can connect you with people in Tulum. That's what I mean as far as just starting to put the intention out there and connecting with people. It really is simpler than you think to make it a reality. It's really a matter of putting a plan and intention behind it.
Yeah, I mean, that goes with everything in life is being intentional and designing life to really fit what you want and what you want it to look like, versus like that external locus of control of life happens to me. I'm at the whim of the universe and the desire, and whatever is I can't help it. Because I'll tell you, the people that take that internal locus control, I control what happens, I affect my own results, my own destiny. Not only are they typically the ones successful in business, but they're the ones successful in really designing everything to fit what they want. So if you're going to build a business and not do the corporate route, and you're already taking the risk, you're building something, you have that innate desire in you for time freedom, location freedom to build something, then you might as well build what you want instead of build yourself another corporate job, essentially, right?
Yeah,
so I did want to talk about, like, okay, I want to build location to business. I want to build a thriving insurance business that I can run from anywhere. Or I want to work within an agency that I can build something or work from wherever as well. Well, if you'd like to do that, every week we work with insurance agents directly with inside our programs, the Closers Click, as well as within our own insurance agency, the Den Insurance Group, helping them grow and scale their production, their sales, their agencies, and really putting a system in place that allows for that. Whether they want to do in person or online telesales and have that location independence, we teach and train and give them the exact system on how to do so. How do I attract clients? How do I have a pipeline? The perfect pipeline actually is what we teach. How do I optimize with my vendors? How do I make my business very profitable? How do I save myself time and get the best contact rates, the best results? How do I close at the best rate? All of that. If that's what you're wanting to learn how to do, and you're really focused on 2023 being the best year yet, you want to design your ideal business, you want that time of freedom, that income freedom, that location freedom.
They want the craziest story.
And they want the craziest story. I like the getting stranded in the
getting
Philippines
stuck on
one.
the mountain. Yeah.
All right, cool. We'll do that one. So it's our very first time traveling and living abroad. Okay. As far as running our own business in Southeast Asia, we knew we wanted to travel over there. We knew we wanted to spend time in Thailand, but my brother was actually going to run food and beverage for a resort in the Philippines. So we figured, hey, let's go visit him in the Philippines before we get to Thailand, right? So that's the very first place we stopped in our journey to Southeast Asia. So we hopped on multiple planes and travel. It was like, 20 hours of travel. Boat. Yes, exactly. It was a remote island in the Philippines. So not only did we have to take planes, but we had to take an hour boat ride to even get to this island.
And then I forget what it's called in the Philippines. In Thailand, they have the little tuk-tuks that are like the little, buggies behind with the little like tricycle. But it's a little different in the Philippines. But we got on one of those too to get to where we were going.
Yeah, and so it was a remote island for sure. But some of the best scuba diving, lots of really cool resorts, super Beautiful. Nice people, amazing. So we're there. My brother's working at the resort most of the day. Elle and I trying to find internet most days. So driving around on the little motorcycles or mopeds and stuff, and pulling up to places with Wi-Fi. We'd work there during the day, and then we would just go explore the evenings or weekends and stuff like that. Because that is the thing. You do have to balance work and travel. It isn't just like a vacation. Otherwise, you just go for a little bit and come back. But if you want to stay and work, you got to balance them both. So anyways, so my brother's busy, and we say, okay, well, we're going to go explore today, and we're going to go do something fun. And so at the top of the mountain in the center of this island is like a butterfly sanctuary and some other stuff. We wanted to go
to the butterfly garden.
We wanted to see the butterfly gardens. The butterflies are really cool, I guess. So I don't know. So, spoiler alert, we didn't get there. So we go take off. And we don't really have a map. We're going by like local directions, which if you guys grew up in the South or anywhere super local, it's like, yeah, turn left at the tree that used to be there. And on the third right where the miller's kid, stubbed his toe. It's like, I don't know any of this stuff. I don't live here. And so the locals are very much like, oh, yeah, go to this tree and then here. And we're like, yeah, we got this. And so we're driving along, totally end up on a different road than we're supposed to. And we're still chugging along and we get a flat tire. And, our cell phones, we don't have service. We're in the jungle of this Philippine island. And so we keep trucking along with our flat tire. I make Elle get off and start walking so I can drive it. It was too much, both of us on there. And so anyways, about like 30 minutes later, we end up pulling up to the closest village nearby. And not much English, if not really any English. So we just pull up to some of the locals. It's a Sunday, so most people are not even at work. They're just kind of out at their homes. And we point to the tire and they're like, oh, go down the road. And there's someone down there to help you. Not how far it is. We have no idea. So we just keep going down this road. And we keep going down this road, keep going down this road. So we pull up to a house. It's just a house and in a driveway. And they're like, oh, yeah, we can help you fix this. And
there's one guy that speaks a little bit of English.
And a very tiny. And they had all been drinking heavily on Sunday.
Sunday afternoon.
Sunday. So they're chilling. And so we're like, okay. So we are in the mountain. We've got a few hours before the sun sets. We got a flat tire. Not really anybody speaking English. We need to get this thing fixed. No self-service. And we don't know anybody around us.
And nobody really knows where we are either.
That's another probably mistake. No one knows where we're at. And so they're like, hey, we can fix this, no problem. We're like, all right. And so they're like, hey, we need to go into town to get you a new tube for your tire. We need some money to go get that. We're like, okay, this is great.
We're like, we're getting ripped off right now.
Whatever. Here's some money. And they're like, yeah, go sit on the porch or whatever, and we'll come back with the tire. We're like, oh, great. So we sit on the porch. There's some weird stuff going on. One, this puppy that they have around there is like tearing all the clothes off of like their laundry and running around and stuff or whatever. There's some like little toddler running around too. And then some person that didn't really seem happy that we were there either. So
we were sitting on his front porch and he didn't really know why we were there.
I'm not exactly sure. So I'm just trying to stay out of everybody's way and be inconspicuous. But we were probably the most conspicuous, I don't know if that's a real word, people there. But anyways, they end up coming back and they start working on the bike, and we're like, okay, this could work or whatever. And they come to us and say, the tube they sold us had a hole. We got to go back to town. We got to get another one. And we're like, great. So some more money, go back to town. And they're like, we'll replace it. We'll get your money back. They come back eventually later. They managed to barely fix this bike. And we're like, we're getting out of here. Like, peace. See you guys. And we start taking off. We get like less than a mile away and it goes flat again. So it's starting to get.
We did get off of the mountain before it went flat.
We did get off the mountain. And so it goes flat. And so I just keep driving on the flat. I'm like, I don't have anything else to do. So we keep going and we start pulling up towards the next village, and some person driving the motorbikes next to us like, you have a flat. And we're like, I know. And they're like, follow me. And we're like, why not? At this point. So we just follow this person and eventually pulls us to a little more legitimate looking of a place to fix up a garage, which is also still someone's house. And we pull up. And they got their whole family there. They got a giant rooster or whatever that's sitting there. We're like, oh, that's cool. And it's like, yeah, he's a fighting rooster. If he wins one more fight, he gets to live. And we don't kill him and eat him. And we're like, okay, he's fighting for his life or whatever. They sell
petrol,
gasoline for the bike in glass Coca-Cola cans.
1 liter Coca-Cola glass bottles.
So if you need gas, you just buy the Coca-Cola bottle and you dump it in your motorcycle. So we're sitting there while they're fixing the bike. We're like, it's going to take a while. They get kids coming out offering us their dinner. They're like, oh, do you want some food? I'm teaching them Candy Crush on my phone and showing them pictures and stuff.
Very entertaining with the children.
Yeah, so we end up hanging out with them. So they fix it, but the sun is set. It is now dark. And the light on the moped does not work at all. And so it's pitch black. So Elle sits behind me holding the cell phone with the flashlight on, and she is my headlights as I'm driving this bike, which is dangerous enough as the dogs like to sleep in the middle of the road because it's still warm at night. And so you don't see them until it's close, and you got to swerve and not run anything. My brother literally got hit in the head by a chicken as he was driving. The chicken was flying across the road and just smacked him in the head, and he almost wrecked his bike.
Chickens could fly.
Didn't know that either. It is an attack chicken, an assassin chicken. And so I think my brother ended up cooking that thing up later on. But yeah, so we managed to get back like late in the evening. My brother's like, "Where have you guys been all day?" Or whatever. We got stranded. We almost died. We barely made this back. Cook us some dinner. And he did, but it was a crazy story. We really did at one point think we were just going to end up stranded, dead in this mountain, kidnapped, something. I don't know, but in reality, none of that came to happen. It was fine, and it made a good story. And so that's
literally the nicest people, so like strangers, And this is the thing I think that like travel ultimately teaches you. It pulls you so far outside of your comfort zone, and you really learn, like, of course there's people out there that are not good people, but most of the people that like we've encountered while traveling have been so nice, so friendly, so helpful and accommodating, even with the language barrier. And it's one of those things, like, you can speak a little bit enough to kind of like get by, but people that I feel like traveling will restore almost like your faith in humanity in a way, because you really start to see like how good and nice and helpful most people are. Of course, that's not everybody, and there's those stories too, but really, like, it puts you in situations where you need to rely on people sometimes, and that can be scary too, but there's also amazing lessons in that. So
yeah, and in like any place, like, I just follow the rules of any major city. If I go to New York, if I go to Atlanta, if I go to any major city, it's the same rules. Like, okay, I'm not going to go in the middle of the night and go to places I have no idea what's going on and show a lot of cash, or like make myself easy target. I mean, I wouldn't do that stuff in the middle of cities in the US. I wouldn't go do that in another country either. But I will say, like, certain countries, cities and stuff feel way safer even than a lot of the areas of the US. For example, like Chiang Mai, Thailand, probably one of the safest places I've ever been in the world. Yeah. Like, people are so friendly, nice. You can walk around in the middle of the night, no problems. It's so friendly and easy. Philippines was the same way. And so you find, people are nice, people are helpful. And, and also Google Translate is pretty good on the phone.
Yes.
So, worst case,
a lot of Google Translate.
Google Translate works, or there's a lot of people that speak English inside of any major city and stuff, or just friends that we connect with that take us around and help us explore and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, it's really, I will say, I think traveling and experiencing different cultures and places is the most eye-opening and biggest things you can do for personal growth, development, and just your view of the world is travel.